everyone. Welcome to another edition of our Forge Developer Den series. I'm Danielle Laregi, and I'm a manager of developer advocacy at Atlassian for Forge. Welcome, everyone. Feel free to type in the chat where you're tuning on from, or where you're tuning in from. And I am not alone today. I am here with fellow developer advocate, Ion. Hello, Ion.
Hello, Danielle, and to everyone tuning in. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to another Forge Dev Den.
Yes. Welcome. And let's just take a look. Anyone want to type into the chat where you're tuning in from? We would love to know where you're tuning in from. Um, while we wait for that, are you excited about today's topic, Ion?
Yes, we have a very informative demo lined up today. So normally when I
Mhm.
attend customer conferences and talk about Forge, there will
Mhm.
always be questions about more advanced use cases. So use cases that are custom to the customer's processes and pushes the boundaries on what our products can do. And this session highlights one of those use cases. I'm pretty excited. How about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I'm really, really excited. I've already seen a preview of this app, spoiler alert. But that was behind the motivation for me wanting to bring it on a Forge Dev Den. And we actually have a very, very special guest here today. Let's go ahead and bring him on. Hello, Dugald.
Good morning, good afternoon. How is everyone?
All right.
All good.
I think Yeah, we're doing good. So we're starting to get some people telling us where they're tuning in from. So we have Justin tuning in here from London. Hello, Justin. I think it might be quite late in London too. So
Yeah, I think it's close to midnight in London. So, hey, Justin.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. We have Katarina, our fellow teammate, tuning in from Sydney, Australia. Hello, Katarina. Thanks for tuning in with us. We have Marcia here tuning in from Arlington, Texas. Hello, Marcia.
Hello,
And
Martha.
actually, fun fact, Marsha was actually at my talk that I gave on Friday that there's no evidence of. But um, and we have another LinkedIn user tuning in from Dallas. Hello, LinkedIn user from Dallas. Before we kick off our presentation and hand it over to Dougal, we did want to make a few quick announcements. So we are having a Forge training, beginner level and intermediate level at Team 25 in Europe. And actually, it is Ion that is leading that effort. Anything you'd like to say about these trainings, Ion?
Yes, in the past, I mean, we've been doing this for the past three teams already, both in the US and Europe. And if you are a Forge beginner and you want to learn more, there's a track for you. But if you're more of an advanced Forge developer, then we have the afternoon session for you to join us. And Dougal is going to be one of the presenters there as well.
Yes.
I
And
am looking
Dougal is
forward to it.
creating yeah. And Dougal, you're creating some of that content too for that training, right?
Yeah, I'm creating a Rovo module for that training.
Ooh,
Ooh,
Robo.
Rovo. So if you want to get hands-on with Rovo and Forge, come to that training. We also have our Get the Most Out of Forge learning path that we released about a month ago. So if you want to get hands-on learning Forge, which is what Dugald is doing his entire demo on, he built with Forge for this particular use case. I highly recommend checking out that training module. And finally, we want you to join our developer community. We have a wonderful community of developers. You can go to our community site where you can start interacting, ask questions, get help, join our developer group so that you can learn about more Forge Dev Dens that are coming down the pipeline and any events that we're doing. So we're doing a developer day in Sydney in, I think, 2.5
2 weeks
weeks,
time.
right?
Yep, that
Yes.
sounds about right.
So yeah. So all of us right now, Ion is in the Philippines, Dugald's in Sydney, I'm in Dallas, Texas, and we will all be together in the same place, which will be very, very
Yeah.
rare, um, in Sydney, Australia. And so looking very, very forward to that. All right. I think that's all the announcements, and I don't want to delay any more. I think we have a couple more people. Oh, look at this. Look at the Dallas. Dallas is showing
Dallas.
out today. Dallas is showing out. Hello, my fellow Texans. Thank you for coming to the stream. Um, and we are going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Dougal.
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. All right. So first, before demonstrating the app, I just wanted to go through a few slides just to give you a little bit of context about what it is I've built. Basically, I had observed a few customers with the requirement to really lock down their workflows. They have very tight workflows that they want to make sure that their issues or their work items, in the current vernacular, don't deviate, and make sure that all the fields that are required are filled out, for instance. And they sometimes want to make sure that issues just don't disappear on them. Like, people don't move them around willy-nilly. They've got very controlled sort of flows, and they treat Jira issues and their projects and things very, very seriously. So I'd observed this, and I'm going to go through and just explain. From a high-level point of view, I've already explained the workflow compliance point of view. Obviously, generally, customers need very simple and friendly user interfaces, and then they also need their user interface to be quite customizable. And so if we look at the work item screens, there are various ways in which they can be tuned. So you can create custom screens on the create view and transition screens. And you can also control field visibility. You can use custom fields to further tailor what those fields look like on screens and how they behave. And then you can also use Forge, the UI modifications feature of Forge, to really then go and further control how issue screens or work item screens look and feel and behave. However, the problem that I had observed is with regard to making bulk changes. There's basically just one global permission called make bulk changes, and it allows you to bulk move and bulk edit work items with pretty much no restriction. So this is a real problem for our customers that have very tight and constrained workflows, and they don't want to see their work items moving between certain projects or being edited in such a ways that it basically invalidates them as far as their workflows are concerned. I've already gone through some custom requirements. Okay, so the first thing I want to make sure is everyone's aware. The Forge app that I created isn't really a full replacement of Jira's bulk operations. It's meant as an alternative if it suits the customer's needs. But Jira, the bulk operations, it's a very complex area. There's a lot of features. There's a lot of rules and so forth, and it's not very feasible to just replace it with a simple Forge app by one person. So with that said, I'm going to go give a little bit of a demo. So here you can see I've got this is my test tenant, and on the left-hand side, this is where the main entry point of the bulk operations app is. It's a Jira global page module for those who know Jira pretty well. Basically, that gives you the full screen real estate to play around with. And this is just the introduction sort of area that gives you a bit of an overview of the functionality. But we might just start by trying out the bulk import functionality. Actually, before I do that, I'll just give you a little bit of an orientation around the two projects I'll be working with mostly here. I'll get rid of that. So there's a project called Bulk Ops Test B and another one called Bulk Ops Test A. I might just open that here so they're convenient. So, and they've each got just one work item in them. And so what we're going to do to start with is we're going to import a few work items, and we'll put them in the Bulk Ops Test A project. So basically, with Jira, part of the Jira bulk operations features is you can import issues from a CSV file. And so I've mimicked the same sort of capability here. And so I'll just select this CSV that has 10 issues in it. And the first thing you will probably notice with the way in which I've implemented the bulk operations capabilities is that I've implemented as a series. Each section is a series of panels, and it's like a wizard, but you see all the steps on the wizard at one time. And the reason why I did that is I wanted to make it really easy to go back and forth and be able to have keep that context of where the user's up to. So in this case, the user can see that I've selected that CSV file containing 10, or the definitions of 10 issues or work items. And we're going to select on step 2, we're going to say, let's import them into project A. And we're going to say, let's choose the so this first, this field here is, I've called it task type A. And if we look at the way in which these two projects are set up, I've intentionally made it so that the task types are slightly different between the projects, because I'm going to demonstrate later that how the app is able to translate issue types when moving issues between projects. Okay, so after selecting that, yeah.
Quick question, Dugald. So
Yes.
you mentioned that this is not a replacement for the out-of-the-box bulk move or edit or functionality in Jira. So when is this a replacement? Why would someone even go and develop an app like this on Forge for Jira?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I should emphasize it's not a full replacement. I'm not saying that this app provides every single bit of feature, all the features of Jira's native bulk operations. It is meant to swap it out, those features out, if the app is sufficient for the customer's needs. That's the way I'm phrasing it. It's I'm all of them got to just make sure is like Jira's functionality include a lot of features, and yes, this app is designed to be basically it's like the 80-20 rule. For 80% of customers, it's going to replace all the things that they need. There might be edge cases where a customer said, "Oh, I really need that particular feature," and I probably may not have covered that. So that's just the clarification I wanted to make sure that it is meant to be a replacement, because I'll explain how it replaces it. The Jira comes with a global permission called make bulk changes.
Yeah.
And I'll explain how if customers are installing this app, they can remove users from that group.
Yeah. So this is basically if I want to do something that's like not out of the box, right?
Yeah, and look, it can be used in different ways, right? So as I was sort of explaining, I'm trying to provide a slightly friendlier experience as well. So it may be that a customer, maybe they don't have the worries about using, the issues becoming invalidated by their workflows. Maybe their workflows aren't so constrained, but maybe they just want us like a simpler way of doing bulk operations and offer that to their users. So I'm trying not to be too opinionated here, but the main motivation is because of that compliance side of things.
Okay, awesome.
So we're partway through our issue import. So I've tried to make it so that this UI automatically selects fields and pre-fills out forms where I can. And you can see it's gone and matched some fields in the CSV file with the fields available for this particular issue type, this task type. And it has a lot of fields, and you could potentially be mapping other fields from the CSV into the other available fields in the issue type. But for the moment, we'll just go with the defaults. And then you can see down here, I've got like the last step is, okay, I can actually get a little bit of a confirmation about what's been selected and how many work items there are to import. Each of the panels have this. I know that one of the challenges with this layout, this panel-based layout, is that you've got to try and fit a lot on the screen. So what I've done is I've made it so that at any time you can sort of like expand a panel out and give it a little bit more real estate on the screen. So I select import, and it gives you a little bit of a progress, and it's going to import those items. All right, so now let's just go over to this. The board will automatically refresh, but yeah, it did it. It did it. I wasn't sure how quickly I was going to do it. So you can see all the issues are now available there. Maybe I might pause there to just see if anyone has any questions so far. So we're basically,
Yeah.
I'm at one of three sort of thing. I'm sort of like going to demonstrate importing, then I'll demonstrate move, and then I'll demonstrate edit.
Yeah, so I think we have a great comment in here from Matt from YouTube, and he said he's had customers who wanted to find control over restricting their moves and bulk moves, which I think was some of the inspiration for creating this sample app, right, Dugald?
Yes, exactly. And so what I'm going to do is I'll demonstrate the features, but then I'll also we'll go and have a look at a few bits of the code, and I'll explain how this constrains what the users can do, because it's not obvious from what I'm demoing why it's constrained and how it addresses the customer's needs.
That's okay. They can stay tuned.
Yeah.
That's coming up.
Yeah, but a basic spoiler is that the app is designed so that any customer can grab the app and then add their own configuration to it to add their rules into the app. And at various points within the app, it goes and checks those rules as to what it's allowed to do. For example, if it's moving from one project to another, what are the target projects allowed to move the issues to, for example. But we'll get to that a little bit later.
Did you have anything, Ion?
Before you move on, there's another interesting question from Ulrich.
Okay.
Yep. So here you go. So can it be reused for bulk cloning?
That's a very good question. I haven't. That would be an interesting one. It would be not too hard to do. It'd be basically probably implement a new workflow. It'd be a little bit similar to the bulk import, but instead of taking the definitions from a CSV file, it would be taking the definitions from an existing set of work items. So that's a good idea.
Yep, I think the pattern that you have when you created this one can be reused, except for the inbound connection. So instead of coming from a CSV file, then it can come from a Jira itself. So
yes, that's right. Yeah, at the moment, my bulk import really only supports CSV files, but I mean, conceivably, it's kind of just another data source, isn't it?
Yeah. A couple of quick things before we move on. So we have another person tuning in from Dallas. Hi, Arun. Thanks for tuning in. Texas is heavy. And then we have a couple of comments from Justin Townsend, which is, I guess bulk operations is a large set of functionality out of the box. And I guess a customer might want to limit the number of bulk operations to specific group of users, which I think was some of what you were trying to also solve for, right, Dugald?
Yeah, exactly. So you can, with that global permission, you can create a group and add only certain users into that group, and then just make that, only have that group in the bulk operations global group or permission. So that's one way of restricting it to a subset of users. So what my app does is that it skirts around the global permissions problem in a sort of interesting way, which I'll sort of get to in a little bit. But basically, my app, one way to use my app, and it's kind of like the main way to use my app, is to remove every group from the bulk operations. Make bulk changes global permission, and except for one little group which I was just like associated with the app, which the app then controls which users are in the group.
Awesome. All right, let's see some more.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
We'll get back to questions in a few.
Yeah, no worries. We'll go to the bulk move feature. So now, as a reminder, we've got a whole bunch of issues now in this test project. And so what I'm going to do, you'll see the same layout. So I'm going to do a bulk move from my project A to project B. So I'll start by selecting the project A. I did make it so that you can just do JQL queries here. Maybe I've got a JQL query here. I'll just copy and paste this one in. So I could execute any sort of JQL queries. You'll see I've got a little bit of a red banner here. That's just one of the sort of the checks that the app does. So in this case, it's configured. The current configuration is that it doesn't allow moves from multiple types of work items. So we'll just, if we just selected one or two, then that would get rid of that banner. But we'll go back to just a simple select of those work items in project A, and we'll just move. Let's just move the whole lot over to the second project, which is bulk ops B. Now you'll see that I didn't select. You can't select A in here because you're already coming from A, so that doesn't make sense. And now we'll just. So now the next type. This is the next panel. Is around mapping the work item types. And sometimes this is blank, but in this case, you'll recall that I intentionally created the task, like the difference in the task types. So now I can select task B. So basically we're going in project A, it's task A, but now we're going to map that to a task type B in project B. There's no sort of mandatory field values to fill out. And then I'll expand this also just to make sure that we've got a full view. And basically this is what's happening here is it's added the current user requesting this feature into that special bulk group associated with the app, which is already enabled for the bulk operations permission. And it submitted the request, and then straight after doing that request, it removes the user from that group, so then the user can't use the normal Jira bulk operations. And it's submitted the request, and then it's just sort of monitored the progress of that task. And if we go over to here, we should see them all remove. I might just refresh it to make it a bit faster. And over on B, it already filled it out. So that's the bulk move functionality. And maybe that's a good time to do a little pause just to check if that made sense to everyone. There might be some new questions coming through. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So this is really cool. So the first functionality, just for those that might have tuned in a little bit late. So the first scenario that you showed was the bulk import, right?
Right.
And then this is bulk move. All right. So one quick question I just wanted to address is, will this session be recorded? So this session will be posted to YouTube and it will be there for people to consume later. It will also be up on my personal LinkedIn as well. That's a great question. One of the questions that did come in was from Shu Shin, which is, can you share some scaling challenges this app might have to deal with behind the curtain? Say API rate limit, Forge invocation duration limit, and I assume you're using async events as well.
Yeah, I can. That might why don't I share a little bit of should I share a bit of code? So I was intending to basically go through a little bit of code, but why don't we do that now? Let me just that's the wrong project.
I mean, it is the Atlassian developer channel, so
yeah. So there is this is the architecture of the app is such that it's pretty much all of it's done in the front end. It's a custom UI app. And so what I'm going to do is I've got this.
You may have to zoom in just a slight bit, Dugald. It's a bit small.
Yeah. No worries. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is just share the. I'm going to get rid of this. This is the. I'll just call it the Jira data model. So as far as my front end code is concerned, this is kind of like a data model for Jira, or at least the bits of Jira that I need, and it's got a whole bunch of API calls like. A good one is like, well, parse. It's got some utilities as well, but like get issue by ID or whatever. Let's just have a look at this one. So basically, for a lot of the data that it queries, it does cache data. So the idea is that not everything's cached, but a lot of things are cached, and that it's the types of things that make sense for a session, like a bulk operation sort of session. So you'll see here that one way of avoiding or getting around avoiding being rate limited and so forth is using caching, because it does make a lot of API calls. Another approach to avoid becoming rate limited is, well, with the bulk changes, you're only submitting one request to do the bulk change. And then Jira is doing the bulk changes behind the scenes. So that most of the actual bulk operations don't make a lot of API calls. It's really just gathering the information to make those API calls. And that's where I utilize a heavy amount of caching, essentially, to avoid having to unnecessarily do too many API calls. So I have tested I've had a large customer use this, and they haven't run into any rate limiting so far.
A couple of extra questions.
Mhm.
And Katerina was actually giving some really great context here as well. So Katerina said, in the background, we use the bulk operations REST APIs. I'll let Dugald add more context to my reply later, but at a high level, we do what the APIs do. Thanks for that context, Katerina.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead, Dugald.
No, that's all right. So were there any other questions, Danielle, or should we do
There was one last, there was two quick questions. The first one is, how would you query for work items that were bulk moved, perhaps adding a label during the restricted move?
That's a good idea. Like in terms of like being able to tag everything that was bulk moved. So you like give it, I mean, that's a great idea. It doesn't do that at the moment, but I could imagine that would be a pretty cool little customization to add.
And then there was a comment which said, I wonder if bulk move preserves the issue dates.
Bulk move. Yeah, I think so. It's basically using the underlying Jira feature for bulk moving issues. So I believe that's the case.
Awesome. All right. Go ahead, Dugald. That's it.
All right.
That's all in the chat. Great questions, everyone.
Yeah, that's great. They are great questions. So bulk edit. Again, we've got the same layout. It's a multi-step layout all on one screen. So what bulk edit obviously allows you to do is make certain changes to issues in a bulk sort of manner. So again, I think all our issues are now in the B project. And let's just now we've got to like have a little think about what we want to change. So let's add a label, for example. I don't know if I've got any labels, but let's go and so we've selected a whole bunch of issues. Let's go and click the labels. We'll add a label. Ooh, have I got any labels in this? Yes, I've got a test label. So, and then so now basically on this third panel, this is like the previous two panels were the same as the bulk move. The third panel is allowing you to select whatever fields you want to bulk change. And then the fourth panel is our familiar initiation. So it's going to submit the request to Jira, and then it's just monitoring the progress on that request. So now, if I minimize that, theoretically, all those issues should have the test label. If I open up one of those issues, where do I find the label? Where do I find the label? Iron. Here it is over here on the right. So it has the test label now. So that's bulk edit. One thing to point out, I think earlier in the presentation, I said this is not a full replacement for Jira, and this is one of the challenging areas that I did find, because every one of these fields here in the bulk edit required a little bit of user interface. You have like these. You've got dates, you've got all sorts of custom fields and so forth. So at the moment, I don't support everything. I support a lot, and I tried to support a lot of the main fields. But this is an example where the app is kind of like maybe an 80-20 type, suits 80% of customers. There's probably some questions coming in around bulk edit. I'll just pause for a minute.
Yeah.
Because the next thing I want to share is now probably look at some implementation details, and that might open up some more questions. But we'll just pause here to talk about bulk edit.
Yep, actually, Dougal, I do have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions previously are more about processes and backend questions. So I'm gonna ask about the front end side of things. So you did mention the use of custom UI. What was the rationale for choosing this over perhaps a UI kit?
That's a good question. Yeah, with custom UI, basically you can do anything. UI kit is a little bit more opinionated in certain areas, and for me, I was fairly proficient with React development and so forth. And I knew that for me, it was going to be a fairly productive way to build this, and I knew that I wasn't going to run into any sort of maybe opinion that custom UI, that UI kit might throw at me that might force me down a certain track. I knew that with custom UI, I'd be able to design the front end the way I liked, and it's still a very proficient and efficient way of developing. I could see live edits and so forth coming through on my UI. So yeah, the dev loop was really cool.
Okay, got it. And then a follow-up question for this one. So since you chose custom UI, how were you able to make some of the UI components a bit more in theme with the Atlassian design system? Did you use a specific library, perhaps?
Oh yeah. No, I used React everywhere except for one, unless you're quite observant. There was just one little spot where I didn't use used Atlas Kit everywhere. There was one little spot where I didn't use Atlas Kit, which is around the progress bar, because I had a little problem at the time, and the styling of an external progress bar looked pretty cool, so I decided to use it.
Got it. Thank you. So you used Atlas Kit to make it more in theme with the design system.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing I should point out: design tokens. It's I can switch. I'm always using dark mode, but yeah, design tokens makes it really easy to support both light and dark mode.
That's sweet. Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe Katarina can post some of those resources, the Atlas Kit, the UI kit, and the custom UI that you all were just talking about there. There has been quite a few comments that have come into the chat. I think I might have lost a little bit of the placing of where all the comments are. So sorry, everyone. But there was a question here, which is interesting, but if the logged in user doesn't have bulk op permissions and the app is calling bulk op APIs and the app must be calling the API using as app, how do you ensure proper auth?
Yeah, so that's where we get. Why don't we start talking about that now? So, I should just point out, if anyone wants to actually go and grab this code and have a look at it, you can. Probably the easiest way is to Google me on GitHub, but there's the app, or the code is called in this repo called Forge Bulk Issue Ops.
Well, actually, Dougal, you can paste it in the chat to me and Ion and I actually can paste it to the chat to them. So if you want to just grab that link and paste it here, there you go, and Ion can
I got
paste
it. Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Right now, so but going back to that question, this is the basic flow. I'll share again. What I might do is I'll copy this blog post, because I wrote this up in the IC developer blog. But about halfway down, there is a little diagram that explains how my app works. So basically, I said most of the app is built in custom UI and represented by the view item here. So all those panels and everything, that's just implemented in the view. And then the final stage, when you click on bulk move or bulk edit, it's sending a rather complicated request to a resolver. So in Forge, a resolver is really just a way of wiring up a front end to a Forge function. So you can make invocations to the Forge backend. And then what the app is doing is it's adding the user to the bulk operations group temporarily, just to initiate the bulk request, and then it removes the user from that group. Now, I realize that that's not ideal, because conceivably there's a little window where the user could be left in the group and they could make bulk changes directly. And in practice, from this, the customers that I've shared this with so far, they haven't run into any issues. They could do some more monitoring on their side, just to be very proactively checking that there's no one left in the group. But this app is really meant for not so much against malicious use of malicious sort of misconfiguration of work items. It's more just trying to help people keep on track. So this approach, maybe it's not the best approach, but it was pragmatic in terms of what it was trying to achieve. I'd put it like that. Does anyone want to discuss that point? Does that make sense? Not sure if there's anyone has differing opinions.
I don't have a differing opinion. Let me see if anyone in the chat has differing opinions. No, they're actually, Matt is complimenting you and saying, thanks for the source. It's very nicely documented. So thanks, Matt.
Yeah, so that's kind of like was one of the challenging areas of the app. I'll go back up and just go through this blog post a little bit, if you like. The other diagram I wanted to sort of share is this first diagram, and this is again illustrating that sort of overall architecture. Nearly everything happens in the front end. All the views, I've got all those views have sort of models and state management and so forth. And I think I pointed out that Jira data model class, which has all that caching and sort of provides that client or front end into the Jira or those Jira API calls. And then it's really just the back end is pretty light. It just comprises a couple of simple classes, but basically it's just to govern that, adding the user to the group, submitting the request, and then cleaning up. Yeah, are there any questions at this point? I've got some more things to share. I can keep going.
No questions in the chat so far.
Okay. As I said, I've shared this blog post URL. I won't go through. We won't read it all. It's fairly long, but I do try and explain it in fairly decent details. But at the end, I've got some more details, and this is over into. Whoops, maybe is that the wrong one? This one here. I'll link this to just So this has some even further details around how the app works, how I do the idea around how I manage the state between all those workflow states. I should go through the business rules because that's right. I forgot to share that. So let's just now talk about these configurable business rules, and I'll just share the code. Okay, so the app has a little extension folder here, and the idea is for customers or anyone to clone the app, clone the code, and make it their own. They would register the app as their own, and go and edit how some of these rules and methods work. And these are the rules and methods that the app is continuously calling at various points throughout the app to check on what it can and can't do. So there's two main files here in terms of extensibility. One is kind of more like sort of simple rules and policy sort of settings. And the other is a little bit more functional. So it's got more like methods and so forth. So like this classically like these sort of filter methods. So let's just have a look at a couple if you like. So filter source projects, and I've tried to document that all fairly reasonably. So when you're moving issues from one project to another, this method allows you to avoid moving issues from certain projects to others. And that may be because you've got some really key projects that really act as a bit of an audit trail. And so for one thing that we do at Atlassian, for example, is our changelog solution is based on a Jira project where every changelog entry is a Jira issue. Now, you wouldn't want someone coming along and moving all of the changelog issues or any changelog issues into another project. You want them there as a bit of a historical record because the changelog's built upon that data. Maybe I'll pause it now because I can still go through some more rules, but just in case there's some more questions.
Yeah, so we have more of a comment from Shu, which is, so this app basically has dynamic user permission management built in. I was assuming the app was translating a single bulk ops into multiple ops per item. Interesting approach.
Yeah, that would be an alternate way to do it, Shu. Like instead of using the bulk operations APIs, I could conceivably be doing each of these operations as singular work item type operations, and then I wouldn't need to enroll the user into that bulk operations permission, that global permission. It's a good idea. To be honest, I don't think I really even evaluated the pros and cons of the two approaches. Yeah. So
Okay.
So what am I going to explain next? I had one thought. I can't remember. Lost my train of thought. I can still go through some more filtering types of methods and so forth, just to give you a bit of a stimulus for more questions if you like. So you can filter the issue types again, like I've basically, with each of these operations, I've sometimes put in some default filtering, if you like, to stimulate how, like, what I think are maybe sensible defaults, but also to act as a bit of an example on how the user or developer may want to tailor the app. So if, for example, this one here is like what issue types are allowed to be mapped during a bulk move, and I've basically said, oh, look, let's not by default allow epics to be mapped. Bulk edit fields, again, this is like filtering out certain fields from being allowed to be bulk edited. So by default, I'm not allowing the reporter to be bulk edited, and so on and so forth. There's quite a few different methods here that allows the developer to tune how the app works. And again, on the policy side of things is, again, there's just more policy around how the app behaves and so forth. Yeah. Don't know if there's any more questions coming in. I think we've like gone through the app in a fairly high level, and hopefully everyone's got a bit of a sense of how it works.
Yep, that
Yeah.
looks really good, Dougal. We don't have any more questions so far. So,
Okay.
but I do have one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with this one, there are a lot of more advanced features that you've used. I'm just wondering, what was the most challenging one, I guess? And well, let's call it what's
Yeah.
the one feature you had the most fun building.
Well, I don't know if I call it fun, but the one thing I had a lot of challenge with was just this is all a bit of a new area of functionality to me. And what I'm looking at here is the tunnel, because all this time I had the app running in my tunnel. And so what I want to share with everyone is like some of the APIs to Jira are fairly complicated, because you're sort of like making these sort of bulk operations require I don't know, just like interesting shapes in terms of like the payloads and so forth. So this is the bulk edits. It's not too complicated, but you can see here, here's what the payload looks like, and you got to get it exactly right. And having to deal with basically any type of custom field and any types of like lots of different types of fields and so forth, and each of them have different shapes and so forth. I found that to be a challenge. That's the bulk edit operation. Probably up here, there's a bulk move somewhere, maybe. Oh, you can see here the references to removing the user from the account ID and then adding the user to the account ID. Where's the bulk? I'm not sure if I'll be able to find the bulk move, but this is the bulk move. And you'll see like these are sort of like this. It's like a very nuanced sort of API, if you like. So this key here for this in this object mapping is basically saying it's a project ID and an issue type ID. And then these are the issue IDs relating to that pair of project ID and issue type ID. And these are some, rather intricate field like settings in the when you like in or configuration when you are calling that API. So
yeah, it's
I found the API
way. Yeah,
difficult to understand. And I was making this app for any customer, so I didn't want to have it assume anything. So you have to it has to be generic enough to handle lots of situations. So that was probably the main challenge.
Okay. So we do have a question in here from Matt. So we'll now transition over to taking some final questions. And Matt's question is, Dougal, how would you do all this without Forge? I don't even know, Matt, why you would want to know the answer to this question, because the answer is most obviously you've got to use Forge, but I will feed this through to Dougal.
Yeah. I mean, you could. I mean, obviously without Forge, you wouldn't have the UI hosted within Jira, because Forge, I'm not going to talk about Connect, obviously, because our new thing is Forge. We're all in on Forge. So Forge is the only way to get a UI within within Jira. So, but if you didn't have that requirement, maybe you've got like some integration where you sort of also manage issues elsewhere in another system. I mean, you could make bulk changes from that system, but that would be achieving a slightly different purpose, I would say.
And then we have another question, which is there a dedicated rules view? And there was some additional context added into chat Thanks, Katerina, with getting that additional context. And this is in the context of authoring and managing rules standalone. So can someone basically go in and do that?
Oh, look, actually, that's a really good question to point out. So I did try, so there's two fairly complicated classes or files here with lots of rules in them. And I did struggle around this in terms of what's the best form of extensibility. Having the app cloned and then requiring developers to edit the code as an extensible feature isn't ideal, because whenever I make a change to the app, now the developer who also has a clone of the app would have to sort of like do a little bit of a merge, and it's not ideal. So I did think about, could all the extensibility sort of be encapsulated as JSON, or so, like some sort of configuration that I could store in, say, Forge storage or something. And that, I think that's viable. It just adds a lot more complexity, and you've still got something to then manage in terms of like schema management and so forth. So I kind of went with a really simple approach. It's also pretty powerful being able to, as a developer, put in logic, like in the form of code, and have logic that sort of manages your configuration rather than just static JSON, which can be a bit of a challenge. So I think there's pros and cons, and the approach I went is probably power and simplicity over slightly maybe a little bit of elegance.
Awesome. Well, Dugald, we have some appreciation in the chat for you. We have one that says, "Awesome demo, Dugald. Thanks." And one of the things I really loved about your demo is, one, we get so many questions about how can I find real world use cases for Forge? And I think this bulk import, bulk move, bulk edit, like it's something that most people will want to do at some point in time. And maybe they might not want to use the out of the box features and functionality like we've mentioned, and do it in some sort of custom way. So this is one, showing the power of Forge, showing the power of working with it and using our UI, not our Forge UI kit, but using the Atlas UI kit in order to customize the user interface and be able to build in that backend functionality, also to be able to kind of do some controls and some editing, all within a Forge app. So this is great.
Yeah, and one of the motivations from my point of view is obviously not only trying to fill a gap and show how customers can fill that gap, it's being able to experience what Forge is as a developer, as a partner would, and I feel like that's really important to be able to make sure we're able to build real world types of apps rather than obviously we do a lot of sample apps and so forth, but you see a different side of things when you're actually trying to create something that's got like a bit of I don't know, like enterprise grade app, if you like.
And that's not all. So for those of you that are tuning in from Dallas, there's a very, very high chance that Dugald will actually be here in Dallas, Texas in a couple of months at our developer day that will be to be announced. So that's a little Easter egg that I'm dropping on this chat, but we're planning on having a Forge developer day in multiple cities around the world. So we have one already scheduled for Sydney, where Ion, Dugald, and I will be, that we've already spoken about earlier in the stream. But we're also planning future cities, and one of those cities is Dallas, Texas, where Dugald will be, and one in Seattle, Washington, we're working on, where Ion will be as well. So there will be lots of opportunities to get hands-on with Forge, learn how to create apps like this via workshops. And we have a quick shout out here from Justin Townsend saying, "Thank you so much to myself, Ion, and Dugald. Especially appreciate the quality docs and sources. Cheers." But first, I also want to thank you, Dugald, for coming on stream with Ion and myself. Really appreciate it, and for building such an awesome app with Forge. So appreciate that, Dugald.
Oh no, thanks very much, and thanks everyone for your time.
Yes. All right. So everyone say bye-bye to Dugald. Bye-bye, Dugald.
Bye, Dugald. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we also just want to call out a couple of more comments. Thank you all. Great session. Very inspiring. That's what we're here for. And that's what we want to hear, that you were all inspired. Thanks, Matt. Thanks also to fellow teammate Lars Klent for
Hey, Lars.
tuning in. Really insightful. And we also want to give a thank you to our Forge Queen. She's been keeping the chat going and alive and answering lots and lots of questions. So thank you so much, Katerina, for tuning in and working the chat for us. Any parting thoughts from you, Ion?
Yep. So I was just gonna say, interesting session. So if you want to go back and check out the links, I've pasted them below in the chat. And as always, I hope you learned something new today. So thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks. I've learned a lot. So I hope you all learned a lot as well. And we'll be back. Actually, Dugald is going to be doing more of these Forge Dev Dens to show other custom apps that he's built on Forge, similar to the bulk import, move, and edit. So stay tuned and looking out for future streams. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Bye, Danielle. Bye, everyone.
Bye.